Welcome to the Leaderonomics show. Today we have with us Jim Rogers. Jim, welcome to the show.
I'm delighted to be here.
What brings you here?
Oh, well, I first of all, I like Malaysia, and I see promising things happening in Malaysia, but I've come up here to make a couple of speeches and see you.
See us. Oh, great, fantastic. You know, I've noticed that you've done so many things in your life, you know, written books, driven bikes, gone here, done this, investment, huge portfolio, you know, done significant things in investments. What keeps you going? What motivates you? What, you know?
Well, now the thing that keeps me going, I've got these two little girls, and they are total joy for me, pure ecstasy. I never wanted to have children. I thought children were a waste of time, energy, money. I was never going to have children. How could I do something so foolish? I used to feel sorry for my friends who had children. I want you to know I was totally wrong, completely 100% wrong. Now I spend as much time with these little girls as I can. It's great fun. In fact, if there's anybody who hasn't done it, I urge them to get home and get on with it, you know. It's wonderful fun. Do it.
Or you can always adopt a kid, right?
Well, you can do that, but do your own.
Yeah,
I mean, do your own. It's probably better.
What's so special about children?
Well, children, first of all, they've taught me a lot about myself I didn't know. They bring out emotions about me that I didn't know. I understand my parents for the first time. I never had a clue. There's a whole class of people in the world that I knew nothing about, called parents. I never even noticed parents before, except to think, oh, go away, poor thing. And now I see them, I understand them, I watch them, I watch the children. No, for me, it's just a whole new world.
So that's your focus, and that's what you're doing now?
That's my main focus now. If there's nobody in the world I want to have dinner with more than my little girls.
Right, fantastic.
Including you. I'd rather go to dinner with my little girls.
I'm sure that is.
Including
it's the same
you.
with me.
Right.
But you know, you've done so many of these so-called crazy things, right? You know, driving things. You're breaking the Guinness Book of Records a number of times. You know, going around driving on your bike. Why did you do those things?
Well, I was very keen on adventure. I didn't want to just sit on the Wall Street all my life. One day wake up and I was 75, drop dead in front of a computer screen. No, I wanted to have more than one life. I wanted to see the world. I've always wanted to see the world. I came from a very small rural place, and I knew there was a lot out there. I wanted to go see it. I also wanted adventure, and one way to see the world, best way to see the world is close to the ground. You know, there's nothing like seeing the world from the ground up. So I went on a motorcycle, then I wanted to do it again, so I did it again.
And you know, a lot of people kind of always wait. You know, they're very much in their comfort zones. They don't want to try something different. What kind of triggered this in you?
Well, I didn't want to, as I said, I didn't want to wake up one day and be too old to drive a motorcycle around the world. I didn't want to wake up one day and be too old to drive a car around the world. No, I wanted to do it. I wanted to achieve my dreams, and I suggest to everybody, if you have a dream, you should pursue it. The worst that happens is you fail, but at least you don't spend the rest of your life saying, I wish I had tried that, I wish I could have tried that, I should have tried that. Do it. The worst that happens is you fail, you get it out of your system, and you might turn out to be incredibly successful if it's a long-time dream.
You invest in a lot of companies and organizations and think different things. Is leadership an important ingredient that you look at? You know, especially
well, when you invest in a company, you certainly want to make sure it's well-run and competent. That is extremely important. Yes, you can make money with bad management, but you'll make a lot more money with good management, I assure you. Look at Malaysia. Malaysia right now, in my view, seems to have very good management, good leadership, maybe for the first time in a long time. So I'm much more interested in Malaysia now as an investor than I have been in 40 years.
What do you look for specifically in terms of leadership?
Well, I look for somebody who's got vision, who can see how the world is going to be in the future. And it doesn't matter to me whether you're opening restaurants or whatever you're doing. If you see that the world is changing and how it's changing, and you adapt to those changes, then you'll make a lot of money. I mean, people who are looking to America in 2020, in my view, are making a mistake. People who are looking to Asia in 2020 are doing the right thing. So I had rather be involved with people who have the vision to see the world in the future, and that's who I want to be involved with.
Right, and you did mention that somewhere. I read that in the 18th century you go to London, the 19th century or 20th century come to the US, and And
well, my exact quote was
21st century.
You moved
1807
to 1807 you moved to London, 1907 you moved to New York, 2007 you moved to Asia. I moved to Asia in 2007. So in 40 years you can ask me if I did the right thing, but I think I did.
But what are the, I mean, there must be something that triggers you to do that, right? I mean, in terms of science or
well,
outside of the fact that the economy and the people, and what are other things that triggered you to come out here?
Many things. The West is deep in debt and going deeper in debt. Asia's not in debt. They save and invest. In Asia, there's a huge amount of energy. People are trying to get ahead. Their education is much more important here than it is in the West. Children are treated differently here than they are in the West. You know, people have incentive to work hard and succeed. In the West, they all want the easy way. If you can figure out that, you'll be the greatest historian in the history of the world. The historians have been trying to figure out, why do some countries rise at certain periods in their history? Look at China. China's had 4 or 5 great periods in its history. It's had 4 or 5 disastrous periods in its history. Figure out why, and you'll be extremely rich.
But it's interesting because when it's same with companies, when they become #1 or they become really up there, there seems to be some complacency or other things that creep in, but you have no thoughts on that?
It happens to families. It happens,
yeah.
Well, I guess it's psychological. You know, if you grow up rich and you don't have to work too hard and things are handed to you, you probably don't build a great company. You don't worry too much about, oh, I better make sure this company does right for the future. You're just moving along on the easy train. No, life is not easy. The world is always changing, and the people who change with the world are the ones who succeed.
Let's go back to your daughters. I mean, you wrote this book, A Gift to My Children, right? What's this book about, and you know, what you know,
well,
if you summarize it?
I came to parenthood late, and so I've had some successes and some failures in my life, and I started writing down and thinking about some of the things I want to make sure I teach them when they were young. They were too young for me to explain a lot of things. Actually, the first draft of it, the first slat at it, went to a Japanese reporter, wrote a magazine article about what Jim Rogers would tell his children. And from that, more and more and more, and the next thing you know, here's a book. And I still keep thinking of things that I got to write down for my daughters. And this is the best way. But I also find that many adults, I cannot tell you how many adults read the book and say, wow, what a great book for us, for the adults, not just for the children. It's probably better for adults than for children.
Give us a brief, you know, kind of interlude into what you write in there in terms of 1 or 2 key pieces of advice that you give your kids.
The most important advice I give my daughters is beware of the boys. You know, I was a bad boy. I know. I tell them, don't believe the boys, for goodness sakes. But I tell them to be skeptical of everything they hear, question everything, make up their own, do their own research, make their own decisions. And if everybody says something, be especially skeptical and think it through for yourself. Because if everybody's thinking the same way, it probably means somebody's not thinking very hard or very much. So my main thing is to be skeptical, question, do your own research, and then make your own independent decisions. Now, making independent decisions is hard. It's so easy to do what everybody else is doing and say what everybody else is saying. And I'm hoping that I can teach them to be independent spirits and make their own decisions, and to beware the boys.
Exactly. But, I mean, how did you come up with these lessons? Was it certain events that happened to you yourself?
Listen, I made plenty of mistakes. Yep. Lots of mistakes.
What's your biggest mistake?
Oh, my gosh. I got a whole list. My first wife. Let me tell you about my first wife. I know. I've lost a lot of money in the market, so I made plenty of mistakes. Who knows what my worst mistake was. But I do know I got a whole list of them.
Okay, and when you do make those mistakes, what happens? I mean, do you think about it? Do you reflect about it, or?
Well, now I try to be philosophical and realize, okay, what did I do wrong? Why did I make this mistake? And then I'm smart enough now, I hope, that I try to learn from my mistakes. So once upon a time, it was easier to get depressed or to say it's his fault or her fault, you know. But now I'm smart enough to know it's my fault. All these mistakes are my fault, and I have to figure out why I made the mistake and how to make it better. And that's what I'm trying to teach these little girls. Not just little girls, I mean everybody, grown-ups, adults, children, everybody.
Jim, we'll be right back.